In this Relief Maker video, we're going to talk about the various ways you can interact with the program using the keyboard and the mouse. And the first place that you may want to be aware of is the Help Controls section. This is going to cover all of the keyboard shortcuts and the various ways that you can interact using the mouse. We're not going to cover all of the individual keyboard shortcuts in this video. Peruse them, and you'll probably end up using a few of them that make you faster, depending on what your preferences are. But we're going to focus on the mouse interaction because everybody's going to use all of these things all the time. So let's first talk about the various things that you're able to do. Let's go down the list. We can rotate an asset or the whole scene. We can scale, which is basically making things bigger or smaller, an individual asset or the scene. We can pan, which is to move left and right or up and down. We can translate in the Z direction, which is to move something closer to us or further away. And we can finally control the lighting. Let's start with rotating an asset or a scene. This is using the left mouse button. So let's close this. And the first thing to note is if we're in free space and we click left mouse, we're going to rotate all of the models simultaneously. And in this example, we have two models. And the rotation point between these two models is shown by the cross. If we move this model closer, we see the rotation point between the two models goes further inwards. If we move it further away, the rotation point comes out. So where you're rotating the scene is going to depend on all of the other models, and it's going to kind of try to find the center point of those. If you click an individual model, the rotation point is going to be near the center of that model. So we're holding left mouse button down and we're dragging. The next thing we want to talk about is scaling the asset or the scene. And we have two options for this that operate very similarly, but they do a little bit different things. The first thing we're going to talk about is using the mouse scroll wheel to scale a model or asset. Let's just try in free space, meaning that we don't have a model selected. We'll use the mouse wheel and we'll scroll in and out. And you'll notice that this has some jumps to it. This isn't particularly fine-grained control, and it's good for making big adjustments. But you'll notice that you might run into some scenarios where you need finer control. And in this example, let's say that we're close to the view frustum here, the pink box, and we want to go out just a little bit. But if we use the scroll wheel, we feel like we've gone out too much. And there's no way to get in between those. This is a case where you would want to use the second option, which is Shift plus left mouse. And if I hold down Shift and I click left mouse and drag it, I get really fine-grained control. And so this is where you're going to make your fine adjustments if the mouse scroll wheel is not giving you what you want. And just like rotation, I can select a single model and I can make it bigger or smaller relative to the other models. Or I can go into free space and affect the entire scene simultaneously. The next thing that we'll talk about is panning in X and Y, and that's going to be holding down the middle mouse button or using this keyboard and mouse combination. Unlike scaling, there's no difference between these two, so just use whichever one you prefer. And for most people, that's going to be holding down the middle mouse button. So let's go ahead and close this and try that out. If I hold down middle mouse in free space with no model selected, I can pan the entire scene. Or if I select a particular model, I can pan it by holding the mouse over the model at the start of the drag operation, middle mouse down, and then I can move it. I'll need to keep putting the mouse over the selected model at the beginning of each drag operation, just like this, to make sure that we're dragging the model and not unselecting it. Next, we're going to talk about the final movement command, which is translation in the Z direction. This is Alt plus left mouse. This is mostly useful when you have multiple models in the scene and you want to bring a model in front or behind of another model. So in this case, let's use the children. We're going to hold down Alt and we're going to drag our model in front of or behind the basketball team. It's going towards us or away from us. Using a combination of rotation, pan, translate, and zoom, you should be able to create the perfect scene that captures all of the emotion and interest that you're trying to convey with your relief. The final thing that we can talk about is going to be the lighting control, and that is by holding down right mouse button and moving the mouse around. And this is most useful when you have a relief. So let's go ahead and generate a relief first, and let's hold down the right mouse button and let's move it around. And this command exists because reliefs are very lighting dependent. And if you think about looking at a coin, if you hold it at a certain angle, the relief prominence really pops out, right? Because maybe the lighting from that angle is better. So this lets you judge the relief in different lighting conditions so you can make sure that everything looks good. And when you're done and you want to kind of get it back to normal, put it somewhere near the center. Probably not dead center. That'll be too much light, but maybe off just a little bit, and then you can release right mouse button and continue working. In this tutorial, we've learned where to find the keyboard and mouse shortcuts, and we've talked about a few ways to interact with the models, to position them, rotate them, and zoom them to get the relief that we want.